The most brutal cases are always what gives both us and the authorities the biggest headaches. Children under 18. A 16-year-old kid stabbed his neighbor 55 times after keeping a dark secret for 2 whole years. A 6'6" hospital janitor studied his female co-workers, then made them disappear one by one across Texas. And a corrections officer vanished inside a maximum security prison, only to be found 20 miles away in garbage dump. These aren't your typical true crime stories at all here. These are 5 murder cases more twisted than any horror movie, and some of these will make you question everything. Let's get into it. Picture this, North Ridgeville, Ohio, January 2010. Now, Daniel Kovarbasich is your average 16-year-old suburban kid. He's got a girlfriend working odd jobs doing teenage stuff. But for 2 whole years, this kid's been carrying a secret that's eating him alive every single day. And it all starts with his neighbor Dwayne Hurley, age 55. Now, here's where things get weird for him completely. It begins innocently. Hurley pays Daniel $30 briefly to watch his dog for just 10 minutes, easy money. Then it's yard work, more cash, and suddenly gifts appear. Hurley lets him drive his Corvette, buys him pocket knife. From the outside, it looks like generous neighbor helping out. But behind closed doors, Hurley's demanding something else entirely now. According to Daniel, the touching starts skin contact for money. And for 2 years, Daniel says absolutely nothing to anyone. The shame, the fear, the belief nobody would understand it. Fast forward to his 1-year anniversary with his girlfriend. Daniel's got this whole romantic plan mapped out for her. Roses spelling, "I love you" in snow, nice dinner works. Problem is, he needs $80 to pull it off. So he does what he's been doing, asks Hurley money. And Hurley says sure, but only if Daniel does something. That's the moment everything snaps inside him completely. Daniel grabs a pickle jar from kitchen, smashes Hurley's head. Hurley staggers, but somehow stays standing there upright still. So Daniel pulls out that pocket knife Hurley gave him, twisting this gift into a weapon of revenge right now. He stabs Hurley twice in head before blade snaps off. Now he's panicking, runs back kitchen, grabs another knife, and he just keeps going again and again. When it's over, Dwayne Hurley has been stabbed 55 times. Daniel's covered in blood, calls his dad immediately now here. His dad rushes over, drives him straight to the hospital. And that's where Daniel confesses everything to police officers. Now here's where this case gets really complicated, everyone. At trial, Daniel testifies about years of abuse and manipulation. The fear and humiliation that kept him silent, always there. Judge James Burge makes a surprising call in this case. Instead of murder, he finds Daniel guilty, voluntary manslaughter only. The sentence, 5 years probation and juvenile rehab spot. But then nobody will take him anywhere, the violence extreme. So for months, Daniel just sits in county jail waiting. And while locked up, he threatens to stab a guard. Suddenly, people start wondering, was he really just victim here? Because here's the thing, police investigated Hurley thoroughly complete. No prior reports of inappropriate behavior anywhere they could find. No other allegations, no witnesses backing up Daniel's story. The only evidence of abuse comes from Daniel himself alone. So was this a justified act of revenge, something else? Maybe a mix of both. Honestly, nobody knows for sure. That question still hangs over this case even today now. All right, so that was complicated for sure right there. But if you think teenage violence is disturbing, wait this. What happened when a hospital janitor started studying his co-workers? Between 1984 and 86, nightmare unfolded across Texas. A predator who didn't just attack, he stalked and studied. He waited for the perfect moment to strike every time. His name was Fain Wardrip, standing 6'6" tall. At 220 pounds, he could overpower any woman. But here's what made him different from typical serial killers. He wasn't some drifter moving from town to town at all. He was a hospital janitor who clocked in every day, watching women come and go, and some he became obsessed with. December 21st, 84. Wichita Falls, Texas. Here it starts. Terry Sims, 20 years old, thought it was just normal night. She's spending night at her friend's apartment like usual tonight. Wardrip had been lurking outside, peeping through the windows there. Terry hears something cracks the door to check it out. Big mistake, because the second she runs back inside now, Wardrip kicks the door down and overpowers her tiny frame. He binds her with electrical cord assaults, then stabs her. When her friend comes home hours later, she finds Terry lying in a pool of blood on the bathroom floor. Police preserve DNA and fingerprint from the crime scene here. But with no suspect, the case goes cold immediately now. Just weeks later, January 19th, another victim crosses his path. Tony Gibbs, 23-year-old nurse, barely 5 feet tall, weighs 94 pounds, and she makes a fatal mistake. She offers Wardrip, her co-worker, a ride after night shift. Instead of letting her drop him off, he forces her down some isolated dirt road near an abandoned school bus. He assaults her, stabs her 8 times, and leaves her. But here's the thing, Tony survives the initial attack somehow. She crawls over 100 feet toward the road desperately, looking for help before she finally succumbs to injuries there. Her body's found weeks later in that desolate field alone. But her abandoned car shows up days after near apartment, and somehow he still escapes suspicion from police completely. March 24th, 85, Fort Worth, new city, same nightmare. Wardrip meets 25-year-old Deborah Taylor at bar. Her husband had just left after they got into fight. He offers her a ride home, and she accepts it. When she rejects his advances, he snaps and kills her. Her body turns up dumped at a construction site later. And get this, police actually suspect her husband for years. Despite him passing multiple polygraph tests every single time, it destroys his life while Wardrip just walks free there. September 20th, back in Wichita Falls, he strikes again now. 21-year-old Ellen Blouse walking to her car. After her evening shift as a waitress at restaurant there, Wardrip abducts her, drives her to a remote location out, strangles her to death, and leaves her body to rot. In a field, abandons her blood-stained car in town somewhere, and disappears back into the crowd like he's done before. Takes 3 weeks before her decomposed remains are found there, and by then she can only be identified dental records. His last known victim before his first arrest, May 6th, 21-year-old Tina Kimbrew, also a waitress, befriended. Wardrip shows up at her apartment uninvited that day now, and smothers her with a pillow, claiming she reminded him of his ex-wife, which was his excuse for murdering. Witnesses see a man matching his description leaving the complex. A few days later, Wardrip calls police from payphone now in Galveston, threatening to end himself right there on phone. When they arrive, he confesses, but only to Tina's murder. He gets sentenced to 35 years in prison for it, but serves less than a third of it, somehow released. By 97, he's out on parole, walking around free again. With just an ankle monitor on him, that's all there. He remarries, finds religion, becomes a model citizen in Texas. Everything seems fine until 99, when Detective Little appears here. Starts reviewing those old cold cases from years back now. The DNA from 2 crime scenes matches each other perfectly. And when Little digs deeper, he realizes Wardrip had ties to all 3 unsolved murders from back in the day. But there's a problem. Wardrip never submitted DNA before ever. After his first conviction, because back then no mandatory database. So Detective Little gets creative with his investigation here now. During a casual encounter, he asks Wardrip for coffee cup, claiming he needs it to spit tobacco into right there. Wardrip hands it over without thinking twice about it at all. The test confirms it. Wardrip's the killer from years earlier, who terrorized North Texas all those years ago back then. Under questioning, he cracks and confesses to everything he did. Today, at 66 years old, Wardrip sits on death row. So that's 5 women dead because the system failed them. But the next case is about how obsession creates prison. A prison you can't escape no matter what you do. They say your home is supposed to be safe, right? A sanctuary where danger can't reach you at all here. But for 23-year-old Molly McLaren, the walls she trusted couldn't keep the monster out at all. Because the truth is, the monster was already inside life. Molly was bright, driven, full of life and energy always. A university student at Kent in England studying exercise health, she shared workout routines online, posted healthy recipes too, always, slowly building a following of people who liked her content. But behind every cheerful post, behind every smiling selfie there, Joshua Stimpson was there hitting refresh, watching her always constantly. They met on Tinder in fall 2016 originally. At first it's casual flirty. Stimpson plays perfect boyfriend role. Attentive, supportive, charming, like every girl's dream guy right there. But it doesn't take long for the mask to slip. By early 2017, Molly sees the red flags. For what they are, his possessiveness, his jealousy, his control, his need to control where she goes and who's with. She tries to leave him, but breaking free proves harder. Way harder than she imagined it would be for sure. Stimpson starts following her everywhere she goes, now always watching. Popping up by coincidence at the same stores, same gym. She visits like he's tracking her every movement out there. At least once neighbors notice him lurking in the shadows, near her flat in Chatham, just standing there for hours. Without knocking, without making his presence known to anyone at all. Just waiting there, watching her like a predator does always. Molly's friends beg her to be careful and stay safe. She blocks him on social media, changes her routines completely, even tells her parents she's afraid of what he might. But the law offers basically zero protection because nothing threatening has technically happened yet, according to the law at least. Stimpson knows this and takes full advantage of it completely. June 27th, 2017. That morning it happens now. Molly goes to her gym like usual, her escape place. Stimpson's already there, waiting in the parking lot for her. He watches her work out, waits for her to leave. Surveillance footage later shows him trailing Molly through the lot, carrying a kitchen knife and pickaxe hidden inside his bag. Molly gets into her car, but before she can lock, Stimpson rips the door open and attacks her now. He stabs her more than 75 times in just minutes. Right there in the Dockside Shopping Center parking lot, everyone. Eyewitnesses try desperately to intervene, banging on the windows, screaming at him to stop, but he's locked in frenzy. Doesn't even hear them screaming at all out there now. The brutality is so severe the knife literally snaps half. When police arrive, Stimpson's standing just a few feet away, clothes soaked in Molly's blood, not trying to run at all. He makes no attempt to run because he's satisfied now with what he's done to her right there in public. At trial, his defense tries to argue diminished responsibility here, claiming mental illness drove his actions, not his choice at all. But the jury sees it for what it is, clearly. Calculated obsessive murder, plain and simple, no question about it. Joshua Stimpson gets sentenced to life in prison now forever, with a minimum of 26 years before parole consideration ever, but no sentence could ever erase what Molly's family endured. Their daughter wasn't taken in some random act of violence. She was hunted, tracked, and murdered by a man obsessed, who turned her home, her gym, her entire world into prison, long before he ever drew that knife to kill her. All right, so obsession can turn deadly. We get that now. But what happens when the hunter is just 15 old? At just 15 years old, James Fairweather wasn't fantasizing. He was actively studying murder like it was his homework. By day, he's this bullied schoolboy getting picked on always. By night, he's a remorseless predator carving out double life. And when he finally strikes, his attacks are savage, senseless, completely senseless with no real reason behind them at all. The quiet town of Colchester, Essex, has no idea at all. There's a teenage killer stalking its parks and footpaths there, hiding in the trees, crouching low with latex gloves on, knife ready, waiting for the right moment to strike hard, to turn his fantasies into bloody reality right there now. March 29th, 2014. His first victim appears here. 33-year-old James Atfield found brutally mutilated along the Riverside Path in Castle Park that day there. His body bears more than 100 stab wounds total. So vicious, investigators initially think multiple attackers were involved here. Back at home, tucked away in his bedroom now, Fairweather's building a collection of serial killer articles and clippings on history's most infamous murderers ever known to mankind here. Peter Sutcliffe, Steve Wright, Ted Bundy, all the famous ones. He can barely wait for the news about his crime to be printed so he can add it to scrapbook. But he's not satisfied yet, wants more kills to name. 3 months after Atfield's murder, Fairweather strikes again here now. This time his victim is 31-year-old Nahid Almanea, a PhD student at the University of Essex studying there, dressed modestly in her traditional clothing walking to campus. Nahid's just walking the Salary Brook Trail on her way. Fairweather's lying in wait, ambushes her from the underbrush there. He stabs Nahid multiple times, leaves her to bleed out. Along the footpath alone, dying there on the ground slowly. Police, under enormous pressure, question over 70 individuals now, with known histories of knife crimes, including Fairweather himself. And he almost gets away with it all completely here. Despite being flagged for a previous knife-point robbery at shop, Fairweather's dismissed after a routine interview with police there. His history only earns him a youth supervision order alone. But Fairweather can't stop himself from killing more people now. May 2015, over a year after his first murder, he returns to the Salary Brook Trail, ready to strike. Knife in hand, latex gloves pulled tight over his fingers. He's waiting for his third victim when police officers patrolling the area by pure chance spot a suspicious figure, ducking behind the greenery, hiding there, trying to stay hidden. They move in, and James Fairweather is finally caught now, basically red-handed with the knife and gloves on him. He immediately confesses to killing both Atfield and Almanea there, but tries to argue he's not responsible for his actions. His defense in court claims he was suffering from psychosis, that he heard voices telling him to kill people constantly. But psychiatric evaluations cast serious doubt on those claims completely. One expert testifies the boy shows no signs of psychosis whatsoever, only a cold, calculated lust for violence and killing. April 22, 16, jury returns a unanimous verdict now. Guilty on 2 counts of murder, no question about it. Despite juvenile cap, he receives 27 years for brutality. Our final case shows the system failing over and over. Lemuel Smith, born 41, grew up under religious extremism. By age 11, he claims the monster inside surfaced already. By 16, Dorothy Waterstreet found robbed, beaten to death nearby. Evidence points at Smith, but botched interrogation lets him walk. 6 months later, Baltimore, he abducts woman, beats her savagely. This time, witnesses intervene, arrested, sentenced 20 years prison. But he's only locked away a decade out by 68. May 69, kidnaps, assaults 2 women single day here, including a family friend he'd known for years, making worse. Caught, imprisoned again, system believes he can be rehabilitated somehow. 76. Smith's paroled, consequences absolutely catastrophic for everyone. Day before Thanksgiving 76, 2 found slain religious bookstore. Robert Hederman and Secretary Margaret Byron, blood splattered everywhere around. Human feces smeared across store, his calling card left behind. December, Joan Richburg, 24, attacked in Car Colony Center. Smith assaults, mutilates, murders, her vanishes into holiday shopping crowds. July 77, Marilee Wilson found dead by train tracks now. Strangled, mutilated beyond recognition, body discarded like trash completely. Finally caught after abducting Marianne Malia, forcing her drive. Police intercept car in traffic stop, this time got him. Forensic investigators discover wounds match his unique bite pattern perfectly. He confesses 5 murders, blames multiple personalities, dead brother's spirit. Blames everything except himself for all the murders he committed. Sentenced to life, but the predator inside still alive. Well, 81, he finds next victim corrections officer Donna Pyant. May 15th lures her into isolated area Greenhaven prison. Nobody can find her. Officers frantically search prison grounds everywhere. Until garbage hauled to landfill 20 miles away, truth surfaces. Donna's mutilated body discovered stuffed into one of the bags. First time in American history, female officer murdered inside prison. Smith almost escapes, but bite marks give him away again. Same examiner who tied Smith to Wilson recognizes the pattern. Today, at 83, Smith remains on death row, waiting still. So there you have it, 5 cases proving reality's twisted. From teenager who snapped to serial killer caught by cup, to stalker who turned Jim into crime scene to collector, to monster system couldn't contain even behind bars locked away. These cases force you to ask uncomfortable questions about justice. If you made it this far, drop a comment below. Let me know which case hit you the hardest personally. Stay safe out there, everyone.